please.
Bomber clad shoot up on fire, man.
It's a top, my selector.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you gonna dig this.
So, make sure you subscribe. This is Mano and Mano. This is Maestro, the teacher, a.k.a. the real knowledge. All right, with my big bro, Kenny T. All right, and I want to talk about No.1, No.2, No.3. And if you want to go further than that, we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Kenny. But I don't need any more evidence into the discussion of number 1, number 2, number 3. People in the chat, if you want to go beyond it, 4, but I'm only talking about my top 3. And I'm talking about pound for pound, what people call pound for pound. Now, personally, Kenny, you know this. I know a lot of people on this channel know this. Maestro doesn't do Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I don't do, well, you know, if we whittle Tyson Fury down to 122 pounds, I think that he'd lose to Stephen Fulton Jr. I don't do that because that's not, that's fantasy land. All right, you might as well go smoke a blunt and go write some episodes of Game of Thrones and Harry Potter if you want to go play that game. All right. I live in the real world, and in the real world, there were real titles, and there were real accomplishments, and there were real opponents. We're not doing Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I'm going off accomplishments, and I'm going off performances. And in terms of accomplishments, in terms of performances, I've got Inoue as the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world. He's undisputed at 118 pounds. He's knocked out almost everyone put in front of him. Number 2, I've got Usyk. Number 3, I've got Terrence Bud Crawford. Those are my top 3. And honestly, with the number 3, it's the totality of his career. It's not his welterweight run. Because in terms of his welterweight run, I'm going to be honest, it's not up there with Inoue's run at 118. Not even close. It's not up there with Usyk's run at 200 or at heavyweight, not even close. With Crawford, I'm bringing in the accomplishments from 135 and from 140, where he was unified and undisputed, respectively. Kenny, any issues with these 3 in this order? Go for it.
I'm going to have to say definitely have some issues with it, unfortunately. It's very unfortunate. Now, Inoue is doing his thing, but I just don't think he's reached that status like some of these fighters here. Because I'm about accomplishments, stats. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I win 2-3 chips, don't compare the guy who just won his chip against the All-Star Championship Lakers against my 2-3 chips. My 2-3 chips are way more valuable than the 1 chip against the All-Star Championship Lakers. So, here we go. Inoue just became undisputed at 118. He's only undisputed at 118. Yes, he's washed everybody up, but that's it. He hasn't gone up in weight class to take some more belts. It's 118. That's it. But here we go. We have Canelo Alvarez, 147, 154, 160, undisputed at 168. Destroyed at 175, back down to 168 to defend his titles. Cool. Belts in a whole lot of weight classes, plus undisputed in 1 weight class. Then we have Terrence Crawford, undisputed at 140, has an undisputed weight class, just like Naoya Inoue, but also has a belt at 147, and we'll see. It may fight for undisputed at 147. Being that he's undisputed at 140 and got a belt at 147, is top dog at 147. I still think you have to put Terrence Crawford over Inoue because Inoue is just undisputed. Then you have Alexander Usyk, undisputed at cruiserweight, moved up to heavyweight, has 3 of the 4 belts. There's no way that Alexander Usyk is not the number 1 man in boxing. There's no way, hands down, that Alexander Usyk is not the number one man in boxing. Let's stop that, folks. Now, I do think that it is like Usyk, regardless of this is where it becomes tough and interchangeable, because you have Canelo Alvarez and Dimitri Bivol that just beat Canelo Alvarez, but Canelo Alvarez is kind of still ranked above Bivol because of his previous accomplishments. It's a difficult one. Bivol only has 2 belts at 175 pounds. If we're gonna talk about belts, the belts are like championship rings in the NBA. Talk about belts, huh?
1 belt.
You sure? I thought he had 2. I thought he took one.
No, he's got the WBA super title.
Oh nah. Look, then I'm so.
Better be as the other 3. Better be as the other 3.
Oh nah. If that's the case, then it's definitely gonna be Usyk at number 1. It's gonna be probably Canelo at number 2, just off of accomplishments and the greatness that they've done in their career. Probably Canelo at number 2, Crawford, then Inoue. That's how I'd have it.
There you go. So listen, I'm going to let everybody know how far back I go in terms of respecting Inoue in his craft. All right? And I'm going to explain it like this. In 2011, some of you will remember this fight. I was telling exactly what I'm telling now. I was telling Joe Habib earlier today on the phone. Make sure you check out Ringside Reporter, by the way, later tonight. They go live. All right. Nonito Donaire, right in New York City, where I live, all right, took on an Argentinian fighter by the name of Omar Narvaez, all right? He took that guy on. He got a unanimous decision over 12 rounds, and people were very critical because they were like, well, you didn't really do much with him. And then the response was, well, you know, Omar Narvaez is very difficult to fight. Omar Narvaez is a stinker. Nobody looks good against Omar Narvaez. Over and over, this is what people were saying. Omar Narvaez, by the way, should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm kind of surprised that he isn't, because I think he has the record for consecutive title defenses in his weight class. All right, which was 115 pounds at the time. Flash forward, okay, to when Inoue fought Omar Narvaez at the end of 2014, all right, in Japan on one of those New York Eve shows, a guy who nobody looks good against, a guy who nobody could knock down or knock out, a guy who's a stinker, a guy who's a technical wizard that Nonito Donaire, mind you, a prime Nonito in his 20s, looked terrible against Inoue, who at the time was 7-0, knocked that man out in 2 rounds. That is how long Inoue has been a top dog in this sport. 7-0, knocked out Omar Narvaez, the guy that a prime Nonito struggled to look good against. Inoue knocked him out in 2 rounds. And since then, it's been body after body after body on Inoue's record in the lower weight divisions, by the way, getting absolutely destroyed. We're talking about undefeated guys. We're talking about former world champions. We're talking about the best of the very best in the lower weight classes. And we're talking about divisions where guys usually go to distance, where guys usually don't get knocked out in championship fights. Inoue was knocking fools out. Fight after fight after fight. I'm talking about Emmanuel Rodriguez, who was 19-0 going into his fight with Inoue, out in 2 rounds. I'm talking about Juan Carlos Payano, 20-1, never been knocked down, out in 1 round. I'm talking about Jamie McDonald. I'm talking about Jason Maloney. I'm talking about Nonito Donaire, who got starched in 2 rounds. These are guys who had never looked like this before. Paul Butler, the guy you just beat, had never looked like that before. So he actually has gone up in weight. He has. He actually skipped over 112 pounds, but he won titles at 108 at 115 and more recently at 118. The guy is a beast. Nobody's ever done it like this. And again, go back to the Omar Narvaez fight. Nobody ever done that to Omar Narvaez. Not Nonito, not anybody. And he got him up out of there in 2 rounds. So that's how far it goes back. Long tirade there. All right. But it is what it is. That's why he's my number 1. Go for it, Ken.
It's a very well needed long tirade because it's all the information that I left out. But no, seriously, he does deserve respect, and he has 100% gone up a ton of weight classes. It's just, look, man, let's face the facts. Let's face the fact. The reason why I didn't even speak about 108, 112, it's because people don't really give a damn about the lower weight classes. So hold on. The boxing at the lower weight class is very, very entertaining. But I don't know if other people out there like myself can make a heavyweight almost undisputed, or a 168 and undisputed, or 147 undisputed to a 118 undisputed, and belts at 112, 108, and so on and so forth. Yes, he destroyed everybody at those weight classes and made people look terrible. And that's super respectable and amazing. And I think Inoue is an amazing fighter. That is the motherfucking monster, But at the end of the day, you got to give props to some of these other guys too, man. Like, taking a punch from a heavyweight dude could knock you out in one hit. You know what I'm saying? It's guaranteed that a heavyweight hits harder than a middleweight, than a welterweight, than whatever you call the class that Inoue is in, 118 pounds. I don't know all the names, but
118, which is bantamweight. First,
bantamweight, there we go.
In the 4-belt era. And by the way, what other bantamweight is knocking people out? Like, this is the heavyweight division. That's the thing. And you hit the nail right on the head, Kenny. There's a very big bias of the lower weight classes, right? But just as these middleweights and welterweights and even lightweights are said to be better than the best heavyweight, Gypsy King Tyson Fury, skill-wise, talent-wise, why don't people extend the same logic to the guys below them? They're quick to give the welterweights and the lightweights and the junior welterweights all the accolades in the world up to super middleweight. But it's like it stops at 168. It's like all the accolades exist between 135 and 168. And above that, oh, well, you're too big. You don't count, Tyson Fury. You're too big. You're too powerful, Better Beeb. We're not going to count you, Better Beeb, right? And below, because Better Beeb almost made my list as well, by the way. All right. Below 135, oh, you don't count either. You're too small. So essentially, the pound for pound list is like guys between 135 and 168.
For real. I hate, or not I hate, but I dislike when a lot of these YouTube boxing analysts / critic say, oh, I can't include this heavyweight in my pound for pound because he's a heavyweight. I think a pound for pound is everybody cruiserweight and below. Heavyweights can't include a pound for pound can't include heavyweights. That's foolish. That's like me saying catchers cannot be included in the Gold Glove prize because they're only catchers. Like, that's the dumbest shit ever. They're in the sport. They got a glove. They're catching balls. They deserve a catcher's Gold Glove, just like these guys deserve their price too. It's stupid. Don't tell me that they don't deserve to be on the pound for pound. I don't care if I'm 10 feet tall. The pound for pound list says that if you shrink me, which is why Maestro calls it, honey, I shrunk the kids, that if I'm a 10-foot tall dude and now and person B is 5 foot tall, that if you shrink me to 5 foot tall in the same weight class as this 5 foot tall person, that I'd win the fight if I'm ranked number 1 pound for pound. That's what honey, I shrunk the kids is. That's what pound for pound is. So you're telling me that a heavyweight cannot be included or the lower weight classes cannot be included is foolish. This is why a lot of these boxing YouTube fanboys, fake analysts just sound dumb. This is why you don't see. Have you ever heard Max Kellerman or one of these true analysts say something so goddamn dumb?
No, but you know what's amazing to me about that, right? apparently, if Tyson Fury goes down in weight and we whittle him down to 147 pounds and he'd never beat Bud Crawford, right? Because apparently when you get shrunk in this dumbass universe, right? I mean, these guys read too many comic books, I guess, or play too many video games. I don't really understand. But I'm going to play their fantasy game real quick, right? Tyson Fury gets whittled down to 147 pounds, right? And he doesn't retain his power. He doesn't retain his physical strength, right? And his skills get him washed against Crawford. But Bud Crawford gets inflated up to 270 pounds. We have a 270-pound version of Bud Crawford who's just as nimble, just as quick, has just as great footwork, has the speed and the fluidity of a welterweight, even though he's at 270 pounds. It makes no sense. Nothing makes sense about that, which is why I have to go by accolades. I have to go by not accolades, or I have to go by accomplishment, and I have to go by performance. That's what I have to go by. And if we're going by that, then I have to treat all of the weight divisions as equal. And I can't put Inoue's accomplishments at 108, at 115, and at 118 lower than I'm going to put Bud Crawford's accomplishments at 135, at 140, and at 147. Because let's keep it real. What's Bud Crawford's signature win at 135? Probably Yuriorkis Gamboa, off the top of my head. Yuriorkis Gamboa was a featherweight. What's Bud Crawford's signature win at 140 pounds? The Indongo. Are you telling me that the guys on Inoue's record aren't up to a blown up Yuriorkis and an Indongo? Because we're definitely not going off of the 147 record. Because the guys at 147, let's face facts, are not really all that great. Jeff Horn, Jose Benavidez Jr., Amir Khan, Kell Brook, Mean Machine, and of course, Sean Porter, who I thought Ugas beat and who was halfway out of the sport.
Ugas definitely beat Porter.
Yeah. Right? And you could argue that at Porter is Bud Crawford's signature win at 147, correct?
Yeah.
So those are our three signature wins then, right? We've got Yuriorkis Gamboa, a featherweight, Ndongo, and Sean Porter. I'll put Inoue's top three guys up against that any day of the week.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing against that, bro.
Omar Narvaez did more in his weight class as a champion. I believe he was all-time record setter. Inoue beat that dude in his eighth fight. He was 7-0 going in. Right? Omar Narvaez is more accomplished in his weight division than Sean Porter was.
Donaire is better than anybody in Crawford's record. Yeah, I agree with that.
100%. Okay, we'll give him the post-all. Okay, we won't say it's Ndongo. We'll give him the post-all, right? Other dudes have beat post-all. And again, I'd put Nonito, I'd put Omar Narvaez above post-all in terms of their runs as champions. So, I mean, we could play this game all day long at the end of the day. We could play this game all day long. Let me go to Modern King again before I go back to you, Kenny. Then that explains how effed up the welterweight division is. Crawford versus Gamboa and Spence versus Porter, but Spence went life and death with Porter, though. Yeah, he did. And Porter went life and death with Ugas, right? So, I mean, the problem with Terrence Crawford's run at 147 is simple. And it's why Kenny was screaming at the webcam, right, about Uncle Bob and what Uncle Bob was doing in terms of like not getting him into the biggest fights possible, right, Kenny?
Big facts.
I mean, all of the action at 147 was taking place across the street with the PBC, and Crawford chose to re-sign with Top Rank because Top Rank was giving him the biggest bags in terms of guaranteed paydays, right? But that ain't Inoue's fault. That's not Usyk's fault. They were in the big fights.
For the lower payday.
For the
See,
lower payday.
Crawford continues to shoot himself in the foot by thinking that he deserves the lion's share of the money and all this other extra shit. And I just want to see the breakdowns of the finance of the fight. At the end of the day, the only person who that looks bad on is Terrence Crawford, not Errol Spence. That's finally crossed the street or swam across the street because he's the big fish, so he ain't walking.
He made a new street, BOK Prime, and knocked out David Avanesian on that new street.
It was a one fight contract though. Supposedly he's a free man and he's looking to set up the Errol Spence fight next. I hope it actually does happen and that these guys stop playing games because it was about to get set up. Everybody was hype. I remember like 2 years ago, I said this fight is never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. I'm tired of getting hyped for it because they did the same thing again. This last time I thought it was gonna happen because they were so close. Oh, the street doesn't matter no more and all this other extra shit. And then it fails once again. And it was Terrence Crawford's fault. Forget all the hype. Forget all the nonsense. Just sign the goddamn contract. It's gonna be a great fight. Still, it's still a toss-up fight. No one can say, "Oh, Terrence Crawford's gonna win." Oh, Errol Spence is gonna win. Only the fanboys are gonna be like, "Oh, my fighter's gonna win. My fighter's better." You know. But if you're an analyst, if you're a dude who watches boxing for more than just being a fan of fighters, a fan of people, if you watch every single boxing match, then you're gonna treat this fight fairly, and you're gonna see that this is a toss-up fight. This is a 50-50. Either one of these guys could win this fight. So. Let's have this set up next, please. Well, Errol Spence has a fight before they even start considering contract negotiations for that. I heard Errol Spence talking about he's gonna entertain a fight before they negotiate with Crawford again. He said it yesterday.
Yeah, well, I hope that happens. And Errol Spence Jr. is talking about that fight as well. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. But it is what it is. So that's my number one, my number two, my number three. I'm going to put it up one last time. And then, Kenny, I'll let you go through your number one, number two, and number three before we go to a couple more things I want to talk about.
Yeah, sounds good. My number one, 100% start with Usyk. Usyk is still gonna be my number one guy. What he did at cruiserweight and what he's doing at heavyweight as a 6'3" dude fighting these giants, I'm all for that. I'm all for giving my man Usyk the love as number one. Then everything else is arguable. The only one that's for sure for me is Alexander Usyk. Everything else is arguable. You can interchange Canelo or Inoue at number two. You know what I'm saying? It's 2 or 3. Both of those guys are interchangeable. And then number 4 and 5, we ain't even discussing those guys. We just discussing top 3s.